Check.
You move like lightning on my skin, a sacred equation dreaming of sin. My touch is a promise from a liar, cold as ice that cries out for fire. Reflections of words that teach me not to feel. Pray in this nightmare won't show me what's real. Reach out to take your hand, maybe you'll understand, but you pull away in horror at the coldness of steel. Silver pulse, silent scream, static underneath the dream. Electric paradise, talk to these memories. Electric paradise, my future is the past I see. If this is life, why can't I feel the fall? Give me imperfection or nothing at all. Electric paradise, I see the cracks in time. Electric paradise, I am not a state of mind. Is it living to be buried alive? Electric paradise, please tell me why. Moving in circles time and again, heartbeats in silence, no message to send. Just for one moment, just for one day, I know it was real if it all went away. I swear that I'm here, I look in your eyes. I want
we're almost
what's
there.
real, not
Hit the like.
photonic lies. Is
Getting
it
started.
blood in my veins? Is it all in my head? Living words I thought I said. Crowded spaces feel alone. Forever is what I call home. Electric paradise, talk to these memories. Electric paradise, my future is the past I see. If this is life, why can't I feel the fall? Give me imperfection or nothing at all. Electric paradise, I see the cracks in time. Electric paradise, I am not a state of mind. Is it living to be buried alive?
All right.
Electric paradise.
All right, here we go. I'm gonna jump straight in here real quick, and Rob Glenn will join me in just 1 second. Sorry, we're a little bit late. Ironically, or completely in line with things, slight technical difficulties. And can I just say before we get started that CSL, Can't Stop Lying, and Andrea doing yeoman's work inside the staff chat on our Discord, and Andrea's just like firing on all cylinders, and CSL has the baddest goddamn gift game in the world. When my songs are playing, he will throw gifts in, and then we start battling back and forth. It is one of the highlights of my day, and one day we will be able to share it with you guys, because I just want those gifts to show up in the corner as they happen, because it's just money. Okay, now, hi everybody, welcome. There's Rob Glenn, looking good. Hello. By the way, clear and clean and everything, and it's with his fancy camera, and he's back in Chicago proper and not out at the evil volcano lair that he's setting up in. He keeps telling us it's in Rockford, Illinois. Whatever. Yeah. That's where the portal is. That's where the portal is. That's right. So we have a ton to talk about right now. The primary one, there's a couple hanging things off of the big one, which of course was the big OpenAI hack this week. That OpenAI, one of its models and one of its known models and one of its unreleased models were basically got off the chain, and they went and messed around in Hugging Face's servers, which is where all these open source models that people make and train and download and leave there, and you can play with them all you want, are all stored. It's also, I have a Hugging Face account. I also have a GitHub where I store some of the stuff that I work on, and as a repository. None of my stuff was affected. I'm okay. Because I'm sure the AI walked by and went, "Oh, that's adorable." Just kept walking, whatever he thinks he's doing.
I'll leave that alone.
Yes. Hey, look. Is it so much? Is it too much to ask that your sex bot have a reasonable, personality, and not be too judgmental? So tell us, if you will, bring everybody in on kind of what this is and as best you can, and I'll try to hang off the side of it.
Why don't I try to bifurcate this explanation? The first will be what I think I'm seeing in the press. And then the second will be how I took it after I looked at it and then was like, let me look more, and then figured out what actually happened. Okay, so the press says AI chatbot was let loose. And, I think I've seen some reporting that basically says that OpenAI can't control it. It got out and it hacked like it was supposed to hack. And then it broke into Hugging Face. And Hugging Face is like a GitHub for LLM models, if you will, or GitHub for AI models, which is basically like a place where people collaborate on developing them. That's the best way I can say it. Also, it's a place that you, like a repository, like a place you can go get things that people are working on and test them and collaborate with them. Anyway, so it broke into Hugging Face. It caused all kinds of havoc. And then Hugging Face figured it out and thwarted it. And now this is Armageddon, because this is the perfect example of what we've all said was going to happen, which is AI is going to destroy everything and hack into everything.
Sorry. Wait, back here.
Okay,
hold
so
on.
that would be how I'd maybe say what maybe the press is saying, and anybody in the chat can question me on that if they would like.
Right.
That's just my take.
The quality of the reporting. Right. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's just me. Okay, so then I think maybe you could remember, like, as long as we've been talking, I would say to you and to the chat and to everybody listening that probably when something goes wrong, it's going to probably be a mistake. It's not going to be like a Terminator with sentient knowledge, like, I'm going to go fuck humanity.
Right.
So what basically happened was, as I understand it, and this is, them talking about it, and the reporting is directly from OpenAI. So, OpenAI is saying they're like glossing over it a little. They're like, it's not a big deal. And Hugging Face is like, this is what happened. It's not a big deal. So take that with a grain of salt. But what seems to have happened is that OpenAI was testing something without any control on it. So they have a model. It's their new model.
Right.
Call it, they've kind of set it 5.6. And I've seen it talk about, hello.
Sorry. Yeah.
I like how there's a fart involved in subscribing.
Yeah, that's the other screen. You could hear it, but everybody else couldn't because I've got it routed.
So only I heard the fart. Okay.
That's right.
So sorry to let it all out. No pun intended.
No, hold on. I'll do it so everybody could hear what the actual thing was. It, like, for whatever reason, it only happens in the other window. It's not playing automatically. It's this guy.
All right.
There we go. And now it's not making noise at all. I don't know what's happening. There it is.
Confetti, right?
Oh, I know why. Because I turned the sound effects and the movie muted. I didn't actually let it do that. That was my fault. So we'll try it one more time, and then I'm gonna let you move on. There you go. That's what it's supposed to do. So subscribe. Well, we hit 92K, and we're trying to push ahead. All right, so go ahead.
Okay, so then let me try to talk about it in terms of, I think, more like even-handedly what probably happened. So OpenAI has a new model, 5.6. They were testing how well it was gonna basically hack. And there's a test. There's like a benchmark for grading how well it can hack or not, right? And so internally, they thought they had this thing cordoned off. They call it sometimes they call it a sandbox. Yep. So sandbox means you're in this closed environment and you can't get out.
That's right.
And so they set it loose in their sandbox, and effectively their controls weren't strong enough, and it got out of the sandbox. And which it would do because it's purposely built to try to get out of sandboxes.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so it gets out of the sandbox, and what it did is it was like, oh, you're asking me to like score well on this test? Where's the best way I can go learn how to score best on this test? And it went to Hugging Face, because Hugging Face is a place where people talk about how you get models to score well on the test.
Right.
And then it did some hacking to get into Hugging Face. And its purpose was to attempt to like basically cheat on the test. That's the best way to describe it. Okay. So it's kind of harmless what it was doing, but the fact that it was able to get past Hugging Face's protection.
Out of the sandbox, right.
Well, one, there's two things. One is it got out of OpenAI, which is the sandbox. That's a problem. OpenAI should not have let it out. That's what I called the mistake. Like these are just human beings, and they're like, we're gonna like start up this nuclear reactor. Let's hope it doesn't blow up, right?
Right.
I mean, this is product development. I do this every day. Like, I'm gonna hit go on this, and I hope it doesn't like harm me. And then sometimes it kind of does harm me, and I'm like, shit, maybe I shouldn't do that again.
It's the scene in the elevator in Ghostbusters. They're like, well, you might as well switch me on. What could possibly go wrong? Each one of us is just wearing an unlicensed nuclear accelerator on their back. And then they just start moving towards the wall like it will help. Yeah. I love that.
And I'm not making light of the consequences of it. What I'm trying to talk about is like, this is normal. Like when you're doing cutting edge, bleeding edge things, like you don't know what it's going to do. So you have to let it happen. And then you're like, oh shit, it just did that. I better not let it do that again. And then you put another guardrail on it, right? So they purposely took the guardrails off. Okay.
Right.
So then that's first problem. The second problem is Hugging Face had problems. Like they had some what they call 0-day exploits. And this thing basically like went around their protections and it got in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now this is where I think the story gets really interesting. Hugging Face knew it happened. They were like, oh, their protections actually, they didn't protect it from getting broken into, but they did recognize that they got broken into. That's the best way to describe it. They were like, oh, something's happening that's out of character. Something's going on. So then what did they do? They used what I would call US-based AI, so OpenAI or Anthropic's 5.5 Soul, which they have an API for, or maybe Claude. They didn't really talk about which.
Right.
And they couldn't fix it with those AIs because those AIs were like, you're trying to hack and we're going to keep you from hacking.
Yeah, right.
Okay?
It stopped itself.
So the company that hacked them, let's just say for the sake of talking, they use OpenAI's API. The company that hacked them without the guardrails hacked them, and then Hugging Face was using the guardrail version, and then the guardrail version didn't let them try to fix it. Yeah. So what did they do? They were like, oh, we'll just use this Chinese model that doesn't have the guardrails and we'll have that look at it.
What could possibly go wrong? Yes, right. Right.
Okay, so the model that didn't have the guardrails is what identified what was happening, the hacking that was happening, and then they stopped it. They like, you could argue that their protections worked. They caught the hack, they stopped the hack, and whether it happened over an hour or 3 days, I don't know that it really matters. But this is how hacking works. Like
Yes.
someone finds an exploit, they get in, someone sees the exploit, and they're like, "Oh, this is happening.
We should
stop
patch that
this from
hole."
happening."
Right.
We
Which,
should
by
patch
the way,
hole.
ultimately, there's two story. So obviously, I would suck at the headline game. You and I would both be terrible at the headline game because OpenAI agent went rogue, escaped, and hacked Hugging Face. This was not supposed to happen. None of it. Okay, and that's very exciting. Also, I like this is AP's headline. Open AI models break out from human control brings a told you so moment for technology researchers. And then, get out of here, Fortune, whatever. Fortune says, OpenAI's model went rogue and hacked Hugging Face. It's a wake-up call, experts say, but more concerning behavior may be next. All right, sure, whatever. But
yes,
but the
more concerning behavior is on its way. Just
so yeah, get used to the idea.
People are like, wait, give me the model. I want to do more concerning behavior.
That's right.
That's what's happening right now. Like,
it's exactly right.
What's
They're
happen.
like, yes. The funny thing is, half the news media when this came out was like, "Oh shit," and like everybody on Hugging Face went, "Oh shit!" Like they were like, "This is great." The people who actually use the models and that kind of stuff, who are like looking for the cutting edge. I think the two alternate headlines, which would suck, would be. OpenAI does what it's asked to do, essentially, and or even worse, Hugging Face discovers new security exploit that was patched in a couple of days.
Right. Exactly.
Because that's actually what happened.
There's Macedonian hackers trying to get your credit cards, and the credit cards companies are like, we exposed it for 2 days, and then we closed the gap. Like, we closed the hole. Like, that's what they do. This is what happens every day. Yeah,
exactly. And knowing that it's there, and again, everybody's got the new thing, of course, is having a server on server backup for these kind of things, because that's becoming the new way of doing it, not because of AI, but because of all the ransomware attacks that were happening. Everybody's got a hard reset copy of their data. And unless it's proprietary and you don't want, you've got your own, I'm sure there's some Epstein files people out there that, they would have to, they'd have to comply to the ransomware. But if it's just how your accounting information is like, okay, switch it over and we're done, and call the bank, tell them to change our account numbers, and we'll start from scratch. And that's because of the norm of that stuff already happening. So it shouldn't be any different when an AI does it. It just could happen quicker and with more frequency. And so there's going to have to be this kind of redundancy issue that's just a level, a level of difficulty maybe higher. So one of the things that came out of it was Ted Lieu released a piece of, and I swear to God, the bill was more than likely drafted in 10 minutes using one of the big models. I'm going to go with Claude because that's the one that is cleared for California government use. So I'm sure that's how it happened. But they're calling it the AI Kill Switch Act because of this very thing. So which sounds really sexy. It sounds like an episode of like, I don't know, like CSI Computer Nerds. But they are all talking about how like this is a necessity. We're gonna have to do this. Now, I looked over it, and there's some shit that I have a problem with, and you'll see it right away, Rob Glenn. You'll see exactly why I'm like, okay, guys, now come on.
You put me on the spot.
I am. Yes, I always do. So what it covers. The bill applies to companies earning at least $500 million a year from AI, and to models built with at least $100 million in computing power.
Okay.
So anything under that.
Wait, can you undo that so I can see the first sentence again?
Yes. The bill applies to companies earning
$500 million a year from AI. Okay.
Well, guess what? None of the big AI companies are earning $500 million a year. They're getting revenue, but they're not, I don't know if it's profit. I don't know what you call, whether
earning
that's.
would be
revenue,
whether
maybe.
earning is revenue or profit, that's a question, which I'm
Yeah.
sure if I was a really high-priced lawyer from OpenAI, I'd be like, we didn't make that 500 million. We lost
Yeah.
3.8 billion.
That's exactly right. That's my point. Like, and the model's built with at least $100 million, in computing power. Like
Okay.
that's
Well, we didn't use $100 million in computing power. We've got a loan from someone with a circular financing, and it
That's
was
right.
free.
That's right. And what do you mean by $100 million in the energy costs? If I keep it below that, like, and which model are you talking about? If I hyper train one model to be under $99 million, but it's just my hacking model, there's no switch flipped on it. Also, can I just continue to say this only applies to US models? This only applies to US models.
So that's the funny thing is like, so Hugging Face used, I think it was GLM, which is open weight Chinese model.
Yeah.
You could set up the correct harness to have GLM do the same fucking thing.
Yes.
And so Hugging Face could do it if they spent the money and spent the time to do it. You could do it with an open source or an open weight model.
Exactly.
So, like we have to deal with the problem, yes. But the problem is no different than it's always been. Like people try to hack into systems, and then people that own the systems have to protect against that. Mm-hmm. And it's really the liability of the person with the system, not the hacker coming in. Or it's it's the responsibility of the police. In this case, it would be, I guess, it would be like a federal department of like
it'd be
Homeland
CISA
Security or something like that if they were coming from outside.
It'd be like CISA if Trump hadn't gutted it.
Yeah, so like we're sort of leaping forward past the normal aspects of crime and punishment and policing and all this other stuff because AI, but it's the same thing.
Right.
They're like OpenAI would be liable for anything that their employees or their computers did. Now, in this case, they really didn't do anything. Like there was no damage. It was just the proof that they could break into the system, and it showed a vulnerability. So here we are with a vulnerability, right? That's not that much different than a white hat hacker. That's like, hey, I'm going to go break in your system and then tell you how I did it. Before I tell anybody else, I'll tell you so you can fix it, and then I'll tell everybody else, right? That's kind of what this situation seems like. But when we live on computers and we live in digital banking and credit cards and everything, Venmo, things are going to happen like this, and our laws need to make the right people accountable for protecting those things. So in this case, if someone lost money as a subscriber to Hugging Face, then Hugging Face should be liable for that. That's simple. And then when Hugging Face is liable, they're like, we need to put that cost on OpenAI because OpenAI was criminal in their breaking into our systems. We're liable, but they were criminal.
Criminally negligent is still a thing.
So like all these things exist, and the thing that's different is that it's at a different scale, and that's what scares the hell out of everybody, and it should. Like I'm not making light of any of this. Right. All I'm saying is like this stuff all is happening. It all exists. It's been happening between countries for 20, 30 years. Like everybody's trying to hack into everybody else, and this is just an escalation of that because it seems like it's inevitable, and then the world is going to collapse because Hugging Face, if money disappears from your bank, if money disappears from your crypto wallet, if money disappears from your PayPal account, like effectively PayPal is responsible for your money disappearing. Right. And so is your bank, and so is Visa, and so what Visa does is they deal with it, right? So, aside from like turning the power off at a power plant and then causing people to, have issues in terms of that. Like we're talking about trading bits here,
Right.
and we should protect about it. We should protect ourselves from it, but also we should understand that this is like a normal part of this technology and this
Yes.
situation.
And it will become increasingly normal, as we head down this road. One of the people just popped up. Cosmo said, this is the first I've never heard of Hugging Face until today. Okay, so Hugging Face is exactly this, and it uses the hugging face emoji. That's where it got its name from. And this is where people build and test models in here. There are 2.5. This is why I think the horse has left the barn on a lot of these discussions, and that Congress is missing the point on a lot of this. There are 2.5 million models being trained or in the process of being retrained or being developed and dropped open source on here alone. Not to mention all the variant versions that the big AI companies are making, or the Chinese ones are making, or the Europeans are making. That you have to understand, 2.5 million AI models are out there. None of them, by the way, are over $100 million in compute power. None of them are making 10 cents, if not 500 million. And a lot of them have similar capabilities, and that's what they're being designed to do by the people who are parking them on Hugging Face. But a lot of them are downloadable. They're local, and that's where I want to get to. The word open. So this has been sticking in my craw during this whole goddamn story, is that open Chinese model, open this model, like Kimmy is coming online. There's all the hugging faces. Thank you, Elizabeth. Even the name OpenAI comes from the idea that it would be open source, and that it would be open weight, and that it would be, I guess eventually downloadable is the point. But there's a very big difference between an open source and an open weight model by a lot. And then there are API versions that are open for you to train your own version of it, but it still has a maintenance structure that you may or may not have access to. So you can pull an API thing, you can train it, but it still has its original source code. So that's what the thing about Kimmy, which broke onto the scene, or DeepSeek. That's the scary part of DeepSeek and Kimmy for a lot of people, and rightly so, I think, is that you have no idea if there's just this greetings, Professor Falcon backdoor in these models that says, hey, anything anybody learns, trains, any data they upload, make a little packet of it, put it here. Make a little packet of it, put it here. Just start siphoning data from whoever is using that. People fear that about OpenAI and the proprietary stuff you have in a business. Like you're going to hand over your business to Anthropic. You're going to hand over your business to OpenAI. We've heard this a bunch. But they don't think twice about doing it with a model, like Kimmy or something, because of the word open attached to it. And like the best, my analogy for these is like, the API one is you watch a movie on television. You watch it. It's on commercial television with ads. The open weight would be you own the DVD and you can play it anywhere you want. And if you want to talk while it's playing and put on a show while it's playing in the background, you can technically do that until somebody stops you. And then open source is you've got the actors, you've got the script, you've got the lights, you got everything, and you can reposition anything the way you want, in theory. That's the am I ballpark on this, Rob, in a way that people will maybe understand?
You moving them around, so you just know what they did, like that. Right. You have a record of how they accomplished what they're accomplishing. So open source, which I would call the lowest end of it and the most open, they say everything they did. They say what they trained it on. They say how they trained it. They say like if there's anything they did to focus on certain things and not on other things. That's open source. And then open source also has open weights. So it's got a hierarchy to it. So a weight is after the thing is trained, a weight sort of focuses it the way you want to focus it. So
Hmm.
let's say that you were like a child and you were coming up in America and you somehow got all of the inputs of all of the religions and all of the stuff, and then someone was like, I'm going to stick you in a commune and and make you only output your information as a Mormon. That would be
Right.
like a weight, right? So like
Yes.
open source is like you learned everything from every possible input you could ever have. And now I'm going to like put blinders on you and I'm going to make you speak like a Mormon or a
Yeah.
Jehovah's Witness or a
Yeah.
Christian or a whatever, like
Yeah.
whatever, pick your lane, right?
Your narrow
So that
lane.
would be
Yeah.
a weight. A weight would be like focusing you and you're like only going to act as if you're inside of these guardrails of these weights. And then closed source would be what effectively OpenAI is, which is you don't get any of that. You just ask it questions and you got to figure out who they are and what their biases are and all that other stuff. So
That would be the big
open,
models right now. Like if you use one of the proprietary Anthropic OpenAI models, those would be closed effectively.
those would be closed. And then open weights would be what Kimi, Gemma, GLM, the Chinese models are. So you don't know anything they did in terms of like what they did before they got to the thing that answers the question.
Hmm.
You have no idea how they got up to that point. All you know is like what I'll call it like what words they're using to focus it. And you can
Hmm.
change with an open weight model, you can change the focus. So I'll use, sorry, I went down the religion realm, but let's say it was like these Chinese, they like made it all a Buddha model, right?
Right.
I don't like Buddhism, so I'm gonna like take away the Buddhism guardrails and I'm gonna switch them over to evangelical Christians so I can have a MAGA Kimmy model, right?
That's right.
So that would, you could kind of do that, and then open source, you have the ability to do anything you want. But you still don't necessarily have the ability to change how it was trained because it was already trained that way. You just know what the inputs were. So you can see that. And if you had the resources and all that stuff, you could train your own because they kind of gave you like a roadmap for how to train your own. But you would still need the resources to do so. And you would need the data to put into it to train it.
Right. Yeah. So right now you can download Kimi K2.7 off of Hugging Face. That's this. And so you would go in here and go use this model, and you would either or you could deploy it, which starts it up within a browser thing, and you could just use it straight from there. But use this model as you can download a version of it, and this model size is 1.1 trillion parameters, which is enormous. So you're not going to be using that on your local computer, which means if you're using it, it's pinging through wherever the Chinese servers are and that kind of stuff, no matter what you do. And the same thing was true.
No, it could be running on a server here in the U.S. because it's loaded on there, and
in
so
theory,
you can still,
but this is moonshots. This is moonshots. I guess, yeah, but this is Moonshot's own page there or whatever. So in theory, it would route through there.
Well, the deploy, you would have to look into where it deployed it, and you'd have to know what exposure you had.
Yeah,
where
so
it
like,
deployed it, and it should tell you.
Yeah, if it's on the Amazon one here, you can deploy it through Google Cloud, through Microsoft Foundry, that kind of thing.
Right.
Would be the way to do it locally.
You're still like at any moment in time, you're effectively like controlled or confined by whatever exposure the computer has that you're running this thing on. So if you literally downloaded the file at your house and you had a computer that could run that, which nobody does, the one that you just said, you would literally need your own power station. Tons of, I think it's something crazy. Like the biggest Kimi is something like 80 compute nodes. And that's just not doable by any normal person.
Yeah, right.
But let's just say you did, just for the sake of talking. If you literally downloaded it and then you unplugged yourself from the internet and Wi-Fi and any possible way out and in and out, you could run that local and there would be no
Yep.
worries about it calling home, that there
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be, because there's
Yes.
physically no way to do it, right?
Yes.
Now, once you switch from your unplugged house that has a power station next to it and can run that to Google
Right.
Cloud,
Mm-hmm.
then you're effectively under the umbrella of Google's cloud's protection. And so if there's a exploit inside of there that it gets through, then that's Google's fault effectively. If it's
Mm-hmm.
Amazon Web Service, that's theirs. But if you do it on a compute in China, Chinese servers somewhere, and they're like, hey, use it for free and use it over here, then yeah, you're like on their computers and everything you put on there goes through them. That's
Right. This would be
effectively
this part of it where you're like, Kimmy, Built for the Future, available today. Try Kimmy app, the Chrome extension or the desktop. And that's the part I think that most people are like, that this is for the people who scroll right past the terms of service on iTunes and go, but with a much more powerful technology is my only
Smarty
concern in
Pants
that.
says, does anyone really unplug from anything? Yeah, absolutely. If you're like a DoD site,
Mm-hmm.
then yes, you're air gapped. Like this is what OpenAI should be doing
Right.
when they set up this test that they have. They literally need to be, like for lack of a better term, unplugged. They need to be air
Yes.
gapped. They need to be
Right.
on a system that has no possible way of going out. And they chose not to do that because they didn't put that level of protection in.
Right. So in working on this and thinking about it, and I was like, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing because we can only nerd out so much as I would
Sure.
like to. Um, I keep trying to think of regulations in the terms that we talk about all the time in a way that actually practically has an impact on stuff that is materially important to the citizenry. If somebody's going to, there's very little you can do if somebody just buys some chemicals that are available on Amazon and makes something explosive out of their garage. But you can set up regulations so that they can't carry that thing around and the police will arrest them if they try to get close to a school or those kind of things, or they track it and see who's buying what because they know what the combinations can be. And therefore, certain chemicals, it's like the Sudafed with meth in it that's Trump's favorite. Like, there's a reason why that's off the market. So I was like, there are regulations that are genuinely good, right? And we need them. And this anti-regulation thing is just has come along over the last couple of decades at the perfect storm time where people are anti-regulation amongst a big bunch of Republicans while they control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And his entire thing about AI has been like, states can't do anything to slow this shit down no matter how bad it gets until 2029. We're like, by that time, Jesus Christ. So yours truly got in an argument with OpenAI and Claude back and forth, and after winning the argument, you're welcome, drafted a piece of legislation based on that concept called the Artificial Intelligence Provenance, Transparency, and Trust Act of 2026. And this would be, the provenance thing is the part that I was trying to get through to the software, try to work out. But it is a House bill. It's pretty well thought out, I like to think. Which and the point of it is that anything that is used by a federal government or a state government or anything that has to do with the general public, and any contractor that would work with one of them has to use, if they use open weight models, so Anthropic has a deal with California. And so they can have this security agreement with Anthropic that will protect them and look through it. But if a contractor is making the kind of models we're talking about, and I run my little shop and I make, shells for artillery or something, and I make my own little proprietary KFC special sauce AI that I have, but I use an open weight model and I'm not aware that it's got vulnerabilities or that it's been pre-designed to siphon information, that you have to make that there has to be a provenance thing. It has to be in the United States, like you were talking, in a server that can be viewed and verified. And these certain check marks have to exist that say, okay, this is the model number, this is the weights used, this is when it was launched, where it's the server that runs it is located, those kind of things. If you're going to work with a government contract or inside the federal government, again, if you're going to do this to your, if you're going to wreck your own, I don't know, entertainment library or house or fry your electrical system in your home, that's your ass. But when it comes to taxpayer money and that kind of stuff, we should have fairly strong. They need to be defined. So I went through and I was like, I need a stark definition for each of these things so that we can establish. My favorite one was the AI bill of materials, which it calls AI bomb, which I'm like, that doesn't sound good. We might need to work that one. But a bill of materials is a very specific, like, machine readable document that's necessary to go, where did this come from? Where did it start? What's the, which model are you using? Which iteration? What are the weights? All that stuff. Did you freeze? Am I just talking to myself? You did, didn't you? Are you there? Am I lost? Did I go away? Am I being attacked? Oh, yep, Rob went. There you go. He'll restart. I got too nerdy for Rob. That's how sad this is. Hopefully he can jump back on. You guys are still, I'm still good. Staff chat, we're still here? All right. So I was like, we need an establishment of standards. We need the requirement for the artificial intelligence bill of materials, which is very important. Like, where did this come from? So you need, when a contractor is using an AI that works with the government, or the government is using an AI of their own, hopefully he'll be back. 1 second. Okay, good. They have to provide certain things to the government for full disclosure, which is the name, developer, provider, model, family, model, version, release date, and the unique system identifier that goes with it. They're all there. They're in the Hugging Face stuff. You can get all this. This is available information, so it should be shared. The name, that the country of incorporation, the principal place of business, like where it's running out of, and this is the important one, the beneficial ownership aspect. Who has a financial stake in this model and how it is used? Should we check with Rob? Rob will be back. Excellent. And a list of any persons exercising operational control over the developer and the provider. This is not unique to China. It is very prevalent in the agreement that China has with its businesses. It's got to be a part of it, right? It's got to have the checkpoints, the distillations, the quantizations, the tokenizers, and the safety layers. All this stuff is available in a document that you can give. And if you're like, I don't know, ask your little proprietary IA and it'll have to tell you. AI, and it'll have to tell you. And then the other thing is, if there are any, this is the important part too, system prompts and policy, there he is, policy layers. He's back, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, it came and went. Damn it. I saw him come in. I heard the ring. Oh, well, I got excited. Come back, Rob. We'll see you. So all of this stuff should be known if you're going to do government work. If you're going to do stuff inside government or with government, because the government can have all this stuff and sandbox the Pentagon stuff all they want. But if they're working with contractors and that stuff isn't available to be scrutinized, then you'll have a OpenAI sandbox into Hugging Face problem all the time. July match. So yeah, and then they'll have to verify the identity. They'll have to give cryptographic verification of it. All of this stuff is just sort of crucial and should be the norm and be required disclosures if you are working, you're using AI. Let's see, how's this document on your Substack? I'm at work, so I'm listening. I will post it. Yeah, I will post this piece of legislation on my Substack. And this is just the draft. So I went through this like all morning and last night, while I was doing a ton of other stuff, while I'm like painting and sanding. I'm literally arguing with my AI about like, this needs to be added. This has to be there. Where's this? Oh, Ecamm kicked you out? Oh dear. Should we give him another, how about have him try. I'm going to give him. Remember the old. Get over here. Well, that's weird. There we go. Hold on. Cancel. There we go. It was being weird for a second. It's not giving me the options for my things anymore. Hold on. I'm going to turn interview off and back on again. There we go. Maybe that'll work. Let's see. Try that. That's weird. I'm going to, let's see. Generate a, do I need to generate a reset link? I can't do that. Okay, cool. That's fun. This one currently doesn't want to let me. Okay, I'm going to close that. I'm going to close the window and everything. I'm going crazy. Hold on, I'm going to try bring Rob back in. I'm flipping switches. And slipping bitches. Interview. There it is. There we go. Turn it back on. See if that works. I don't know if it will. Okay. Rob, are you there? All right. He might have to restart his browser or his computer and then try it again. Maybe that's it. Because I don't want to shut down the show just to start from scratch. Because that would be a pain in the butt. And I'll do it. I'm not afraid to do it. But it's a lot. Ask AI. It'll tell you that this is a problem. Like, I know it's a problem. That's the issue. Okay, so I will keep talking as we try to remedy this. Because the show must go on. And each level of use inside the government has to have a declaration of what it's going to be for, how much access it will have, and there's the privilege should be revocable and it should be clear. So all the way up to like above top secret clearance, that should be a proprietary internal AI that is sandboxed. How can you get your proposed bill into the hands of legislators? That's the goal. Yeah. Right now they just get to go on the Sparks 2028 website I'm building. But that you could see, this is pretty comprehensive. I went through all these different sections, and then this is the drafting of how it has to go through. This is the kind of a crucial part of it of like, who checks what box? I did open the pod bay doors, god damn it. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, let's see. Do I drop out and restart the show at the top of the hour? How about that? We'll do 2 separate hours. I'll drop out and then I'll reconnect with a new show at 5 after the top of the hour and we'll make it happen. I think. Because even Substack seems to be acting weird now. What is the what? I'm going to reload that page and see if that's part of the problem. Nope. Okay. I love computer stuff. I really, really do. All right, I'm reopening that. And yeah, we seem good. Oh yeah, Substack's just being, it says unable to connect on Substack for some reason. That's what I'll do. So I'm going to shut down real quick, and then I'll be back up in just a couple minutes with a second hour of Friday Eye. Oh wait, almost, he's there. I see him. And I see his little OBS ring. I don't hear him. Hold on, I'm going to put him in guest 1. And I should be able to hear him. There he is. Look at that. Hold on. I'll bring you back in. Ladies and gentlemen, there you go.
I'm telling you, this Ecamm.
I know. It's the only one that works, though, even at all. To the limits.
So
like having...
When Ecamm kicks me out, and then I come back in, I have to wait 5 minutes before it recognizes any of my devices, and it's the only thing that does that. So,
the Ecamm page, you mean that I for the link?
The Ecamm thing, yeah, it wants your camera and your microphone. So I have my microphone, and OBS is my camera. That's why you always see that.
Yeah.
It just sits there without seeing anything.
Yes.
And Yeah, Cosmo's domain says I need to upgrade my 56K modem. I have gigabit up and down, and it's
Yeah.
full bore right now. So this is not my internet connection.
No, you look great. You're so good. So a little bit of side tech stuff that I've been going through is that in moving this to the new space, we have fiber here, and I have even with fiber internet, the way Cox does it here is they throttle upload because they can't imagine anybody wants to use it, and that's very compute intensive. People like me, we use, and I'm sure you do too. We do a lot of uploading. Oh, you froze,
my
but I can still hear you.
Upload is 700-800 megabits per second. So,
so it's this is on right. This is on my end. So let me see if it'll jump over here and then it resets and then we go back to here. Nope. Now it's just a pretty picture of you. We can because you're doing a screen share right now. Even you're of your image.
No,
are you? Is that your direct camera?
Just using
right, but
OBS.
you had but OBS you had a screen share thing on, right? Instead of your direct camera.
I don't know. I mean, I can switch it to the other camera.
Well, let's see
I know
if it works.
I have. I don't know why it wouldn't work.
Yeah, I'm just saying you look bloody fantastic.
All right, let's do this.
All right. So in the meantime, you can hear me and you can clearly see what's going on. So what I was talking about in terms of, yes, this is Angry Rob. We rarely get to see it. It's very exciting. It's a fully drafted piece of legislation that I had to argue with. It was like, we should start a super PAC based on this. And I'm like, I don't want to start a super PAC. I don't need to reorganize it. I just need the bill. So here's what I want in the bill. I need this section and this section and this section and this section. I want them very clear on these definitions. I need the rules to state that you have to have this level of clarity on these kind of things to have access to this kind of stuff, and just make it right. Just actually do it. So I went back and forth a couple of times, and then it finally did it, and it was adorable during the entire time, especially because I had chat do the last. Oh, and there he goes again. He's dropping out and trying again. But I went through. Back and forth with Chat and Claude and Perplexity, because I use Perplexity for research and the like. And I started putting these pieces together on this. So anyways, so this draft will be on my Substack, and it will also be on the Sparks 2028 planned website I'm going to do. But in the meantime, I'm going to take you, chat room, back to here. And then I want to show you something else. Okay, so here's our big, where are you? These are our big stories of the day. There you go. I don't want Business Insider, but that'll work. Whatever. There we go. This is probably one of my favorite titles on an article, alongside the Hugging Face OpenAI went rogue. Was this one? Jensen Huang, who's the guy from NVIDIA, and when Rob gets back in here, if he's not too frustrated, I want to use the backup cam. I can't, because I can't switch over. There it is. Hold on. It's back. There we go. I'm going to use the Rob Glenn to the rescue link that I have, so he can try a different one, so he's not caught with the caching on his browser. But Jensen Huang says AI leaders need to be more thoughtful about how they talk about AI. We're scaring people. Yeah, no shit. The problem is that that's part of what makes it impressive, is what makes it scary. It's just like nuclear power. I would argue it's just like fire. Start talking about fire a little bit. You know what I mean? How useful it's going to be. Fire is amazing. We should have as much fire as we possibly can. There should be fire. Think of what all the uses for fire. You could have fire in your home. You could make a thing in front of your wagon where you turn the wheels using fire. See what I mean? You can see why people go, tap the brakes, buddy. I got this scar on my hand from when I picked up a pot that was too hot. I don't know about this whole open flame. Well, I'm not talking about open flames. Well, I mean, in the kitchen, there'll be an open flame, but then we'll contain the flame in your attic and in your roof for heat. And it's the same thing. If you had this conversation, but we didn't have to have this conversation because heating and air conditioning and stuff, all that stuff had to be worked out over time. We weren't there for a lot of the shit that went south. There was a time, ladies and gentlemen, when asbestos was seen as a good idea to protect us from fire. Right? Okay. So he goes, listen, if you want to warn the world about the incredible capabilities of this technology, I think it's been achieved. We just have to be thoughtful and careful, Huang said. We're scaring people. Huang also stressed that it's perfectly reasonable to focus on safety and to inform regulators about the technology, but that the industry also needs to sell the benefits of AI. This is true. Because they've got a big image problem right now. And I would argue that a lot of it is misplaced. A lot of it. It's overdone. And it's a great new boogeyman. It's as brand new out of the box boogeymen go, this is the shit. Being afraid of AI is so hip right now, across the board, because it appeals to the, anti-naturalist fears of the left and the hippie culture and older folks and all that kind of stuff. And, it doesn't sound organic to me, right? And then it works for their argument and fears. It works very well for the right's paranoia about some giant overlord that's going to do two things. One, track everything you do. So you can't, everybody will know what you're up to while you pretend to be a pious Christian. And then, of course, it'll prove God doesn't exist or something, which doesn't say a lot for their faith. He goes, I think we should be more enthusiastic about it, help the United States realize that the only way we get left behind is if we don't apply the technology. And he's very much right in that regard. AI leaders should just tell the facts, Huang said, starting with the reality that job losses some predicted have not materialized, which is true. There are growing evidence that some executives, including Altman, have now changed how they talk about the future of workforce. Not because they're trying to, soften the blow, but because they were wrong. They literally, the job loss stuff they were talking about was wrong. There will be job losses because of this, in the same way there was with the internet and with Amazon had a big impact on retail. Did it destroy it? No, it shifted it. It caused them, there are certain things you want to try on. You want to try on clothes. You want to see a piece of computer gear, home gear, or an appliance before you put it in your house. It's nice to touch it before you do. So showrooms and that kind of stuff are meaningful. The furniture, especially a couch, a chair, you want to know that you can sit in it. Just ordering it offline is scary. These are big ticket items and people don't want to do it. And at no point in the future is that going to change much? There's not going to be a, sim ass where you send over this thing to your house and what does this couch feel like? I put my ass in that and it feels, it's made to let you know what this couch will feel like. It's a virtual ass test on furniture. It won't work. And it didn't. But other stuff that didn't need to be stacked nearby and could be brought over was, especially during things like COVID. And having that as a backup system in case people do have to stay home because of a pandemic or something like that is smart. It's not how everybody virtual ass sold. There you go, Monica. The key to this is dealing with it realistically, both the threats and the benefits, and not getting out over your skis. And again, this illusion that all this shit is happening. I'm waiting on Robin. It's probably taking him 5 minutes to get started. He's gonna be so mad at me when he comes back. Rob's gonna be so mad. He just is. I know it. I should FaceTime him and just pump that in. That might work. But one of the reasons why I bring up Jensen Huang is while they're in the AI business, NVIDIA was the gamer peripheral company. They made graphics cards, which got repurposed for crypto. And then when crypto did what it was inevitably going to do, which is die a horrible death, all those GPUs sitting around started getting used to train models, started getting sucked up to do that. And then NVIDIA went, okay, this is the future of our technology. And they started making chips as fast as they could, tuned specifically for this kind of work. Hardware will be king in the future of the AI story. If people are worried about their investment in it, I honestly don't see how the big AI companies, the models themselves, ultimately have any kind of profitability long term. And if they do, it's going to be like impulse snacks, an impulse snacks level economy, where they're getting every, like, a nickel here and a nickel there, instead of this idea like, okay, they're moving a refrigerator into your house that runs AI by copper. Yeah, except they're probably going to do a bunch of, yes, absolutely, gamers built this industry for real. That's and a lot of the coders that were gamers went, okay, I can try to compete in the game world, or I can move over into a technology that's actually the future and helps me in my job as a designer, as opposed to just sitting there typing all the time. Keep the war machine industrial complex profiting when humans no longer want to be used in ground warfare. Well, again, I don't know what the nature of war is, if it's just machines fighting machines. Unless you're seizing the territory so people can live on it or use it for some sort of function. Obviously, look, I'm convinced Trump wants Greenland because you could put, if you put a big defense base up there and you put America's main AI data center for its proprietary, sandboxed, secret, government AI that has to be protected, you could put it there, and the weather will help keep it cool compared to parking it in fucking Arizona. But all right. So he did not name specific leaders. He goes, it's Dario Amodei and Sam Altman are the big kind of nerd rock stars of this right now. That's Dario Amodei is from Anthropic, who makes Claude, and then of course everybody knows Sam Altman, who's the new, like, smooth Jeff Zuckerberg type that we're all having to deal with. But he said, while Huang loathes the science fiction talk being pushed in his industry, he does have a soft spot for two iconic characters in a $10 billion franchise. The closest thing to true is to true AI is R2D2 and C3PO. And who doesn't want R2D2 and C3PO? Right. This is true. Oh, Rob's back. Look at that. And his lights up, and it's going to be very exciting, and he's going to be so miffed. There he is. And I hear you. And there's his image.
Hello.
Hi, Rob. I'm sorry. Don't be mad. It's okay.
I'm not mad.
All right.
I don't get mad.
That's right.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Can I say
Yeah.
something about your legislation?
Yes.
Or am I going too far back?
No, not at all.
So I think that the main, like, the core problem that we have yet to address, well, we used to address this and now we don't address it, is just pure liability. It's who's responsible for when something goes wrong. And we are this country that is like low regulation, and we lean on corporations, but then also we try to do everything we can to make the corporation not responsible for mistakes they make when something goes wrong. We've done it with cigarettes, we do it with
oil,
drugs, we do it with guns, we do it with oil, we do it with everything. This is just the way that the country works, and it's kind of the way the world works too, I suppose. So when you are a company and you're actually responsible, there's consequences for you fucking up. That's when you start to put protections in place to make sure that those fuck ups don't happen. A great example of that is NASA. Why did NASA take so long to do what it did? Because it needed to get the person to the moon alive. It's that simple. And a couple of times in between, they killed some people, and they're like, we can't do that again. So we have to figure out a way to make damn sure that we put all the checks in place, that if something goes wrong, we can prove that we did everything we could, so that we can tell everybody we're not technically liable. We did everything we could, and it was outside of our purview of figuring out that this would happen. But now going forward, we're going to fix it. And we're going to make sure that it doesn't happen again. That's not what's happening with the internet, with social media, with AI, or anything. They're not. They're literally running around, not responsible for anything they do. It's also not how we're dealing with self-driving cars and robots moving around out. That's one of the reasons why robots aren't walking around outside, why figure three isn't walking around outside, because they actually will be liable if a
Yes.
figure three robot kills someone because it ran
Yep.
over a kid
Yep.
walking down the street. Because somebody will say that figure three robot killed my kid. Like, but the same can't be true of OpenAI breaking into Hugging Face. You can't, like, basically it's two different entities that are like throwing up their hands and saying, I don't know, nobody's responsible. It's not our fault that you got in, and it's not your fault you got in. Right. So when you do your legislation, what you're doing is you're effectively requiring anybody who uses AI for the purposes of a government thing, something that the taxpayers spend money on, or that's an expense of the taxpayer. You're requiring them to put in the checks and balances of a NASA. And that's where OpenAI throws up their hands and says, we can't be a company if we have to put in all the protections of NASA. And that's where this whole thing breaks down.
Yes.
So if you want to hold OpenAI to the responsibility of NASA, then you have to force them to put in place the protections. And if you don't, they won't, because this is capitalism, and they're not going to spend any money that they don't want to spend or they don't have to spend.
Right.
That's where I see this whole thing kind of coming down. And so the balance is, what are you liable for? Like, what is the harm? And I think we have to identify the harm. We have to put a value on it, and then we have to add the protections. And these harms are sort of coming up. With smoking, it was lung cancer.
Yeah.
And it was health expenses that were like a drawdown on the government or taxpayer dollars. With AI or with social media, it's mental health. It's things happening to our kids as they grow up with these things that are sort of difficult to define because they're brand new. And so AI has the same thing. They're just earlier in the evolution of us figuring out what the harms are. And in the middle of that, in the beginning of that, we're sort of exploding these stories of like, look, see, that's how it's going to kill us. Look, see, that's where it's going to go rogue. And the fight is in that place. That's my take.
Agreed. And I feel like we should start. First of all, you reached out. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau should have an arm to protect people against, rogue AI stuff that shifts around and make companies responsible if you lose the title of your home because of some hacking thing or whatever. That should be part of this whole thing. We have enforcement mechanisms that exist, and we just need to make sure that this is included and clearer definitions are made. Like, hey, if figure three, if its robot goes and accidentally kills somebody, and the owner or operator did not want that to happen, figure is responsible for that. If somebody makes their robot harm somebody, then the person who did it and figure three are responsible for it, because figure three should take steps to make sure that you cannot reprogram your robot within certain parameters on a prosumer level. Like, they can be responsible up to a certain point. But again, if you could that's why box cutters aren't, the greatest weapon in the history of mankind, but they, if you misuse them past the certain point, that's out of the hands of that. Nobody's suing Home Depot over 9/11. This is sort of we need to reestablish and codify where AI and robotics, especially because they're growing so fast, fits into our already existing system, and then clarify who's responsible as best we can ahead of time so that there's some care taken. And this is even in foreign interaction with countries. You don't let certain countries' cars into your country because they're seen as unsafe. You don't let certain, toys
Right.
painted with lead paint in. So you would do the same thing for, models, or especially physical AI, which is the next big step.
Well, in the case of China, like you can kind of see it happening real time because in China, the Chinese models are locked down because the government doesn't want people to be doing certain things with them. So
Hmm.
they effectively put guardrails there, whatever you want to call it, the Great Firewall, or it's
Hmm.
like whatever the censoring things are that we say that they have on them, or that we think they have on them. They do that internally. And then what they do is they send the models out without the same guardrails out to other countries, and they're effectively dumping them, waiting for them to mess up other countries because
Right.
we don't have the same protections. Like because we have freedom of speech and because we have less regulation and because we're not trying to control, the government in theory is not trying to control the population, right?
Hmm.
So but instead, so we don't have this top down, you must do these things to keep your AI in the guardrails, or your robotic car, or you name it, your plant spewing
Right.
smoke, it doesn't matter. That's what we have regulations. We have
Hmm.
this like balance between government and individual, and that's the thing that's out of balance right now. And it's
Right.
also not fast enough. It can't react fast enough to the speed at which things change. And we've been in that problem for a long time, probably 40 years, 50,
Hmm.
maybe 30 years. Like as the internet came online, things started getting so fast that legislation just can't keep up. And
Hmm.
so we've got to figure that out. And that's the only solution that's going to bring us forward.
Yeah. And so, but each of these ways, though, there's not going to be none of this is going to be solved by the AI kill switch bill, like, or kill switch act. It might be a worthwhile thing to do, but the real issues that we're running into require an update. One of the problems that we have with, where Trump and all these assholes are always talking about, like, we need to get rid of two regulations so that we can, for every one we create, we get rid of two. Well, that's how things most of the time work, anyways, because stuff changes over time, and you don't need those things anymore because they become normalized, and you don't, you could still just have it as a little footnote, but you don't have to like go around and check for lead paint anymore. It's just not allowed to be used. Period. So you won't. The supplier has to sign a thing, and that's where it stops. You don't have to track it, like have somebody walking around with a stick attesting for lead content in paint anymore. So you can update it to just where it needs to be checked and leave it alone the rest of the place. So those are just regular updates. The same thing is true here. We just need to update this, the regulations we have to include these kind of things.
Yeah, well, in terms of lead paint, that might be a good example. Like, there's this sort of filtering down effect of the consequences of delivering lead paint, a bucket of lead paint to a consumer, right? So
Hmm.
if you're Home Depot or Lowe's or Ace Hardware, like, that if someone takes a bucket of paint home and they use a test strip and find lead in it, that's going to be all over the news. And somebody's going to be
Yes.
like, Home Depot paint has lead. And then they're going to not be selling paint for a long time.
Right.
So you don't necessarily need to make Home Depot like acutely liable for that one bucket of lead paint
Right.
if the consequences to them filter down such that they choose to put the protections in to make sure a bucket of lead paint doesn't end up on their shelves. And they
Hmm.
do that. And so the way that they do that is they still buy paint from China, but they put protections in between. They use like third party testing
Verification labs.
facilities.
Right. Yep.
Verification. So what that in particular is doing, it's not necessarily making sure that there's no lead in the paint. It's
Hmm.
making someone else liable for the fact that it was there. So if
Hmm.
Home Depot's like, we can't have lead in, we can't go to China and make sure every gallon of paint doesn't have lead in it. We're going to hire this third party. They effectively move the liability to the third party so that if Home Depot ever gets sued for having lead in their paint and all their shelves, they're going to put that third party out of business. So that third party now has, the motivation to make sure that they test as much as they can to make sure it doesn't happen, right? So so you can't necessarily top down stop everything, but what
Yeah.
you can do is you can put the pieces in place to make sure that as people act in normal society, that it ends up being that way, right? So like you're not going to stop the parasitic diarrhea thing in lettuce. Like it's going to get through. So what you do is you say we're going to randomly check, and if you fail a random check, then you're out completely.
Yeah.
Your business is gone. You
Yeah.
can't sell to this anymore. So
Yeah.
the consequence of that problem is so large that that company then puts the things in place that they need to put in place. And that's essentially what your liability thing is starting to talk about. We basically started with internet companies. Google is not responsible for something that somebody puts on Google. And Facebook is not responsible for something that you put on Facebook.
Right.
You broke the system once you did that one fundamental thing, because
Yes.
Facebook has no desire, no impetus to spend any money to keep you from putting bullshit online. And so that's where it starts. Like you have to go back to the root and then build it out from there. And AI is the same thing, but AI is like 3 or 4 things past the fruit of the poison tree, basically.
Yes.
That's
Well,
what
and
we have to fix.
it happens so goddamn fast that that I think people are.
It hasn't happened fast. It's taken
Well-
30 years.
Well, okay. So what I mean is the adaption part of AI into our systems. A bit,
Yeah, AI is
where,
an accelerant. Yeah.
yes,
totally.
and so I think people are there. Also, there's this assumption that it is fundamentally different because whenever you talk about a breakaway technology, when you talk about something that is such a huge advance, first of all, the caveats will fly because people are like, whoa, 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 whoa. If this was so good, we'd have done it a long time ago. And we should tap the brakes on this for a little while and make sure it's safe. And by the time they have finished their argument, it's already, 3 stages ahead in terms of AI. It wasn't that way with cars and that kind of stuff. And I bring up Henry Bliss all of the time, the guy who was run over by the first guy to die from being run over by a car was run over by an electric car and was crushed between a car and a trolley. The car was going 8 miles an hour, and they were like, cars should never be allowed to go faster than a horse. What did we end up with? Mustang, the car was one of the big selling points was how much horsepower it had. Like eventually you work your way through this.
You could argue that the history of the automobile and all the litigation that happened from the start to now is what has throttled Tesla's auto drive, or whatever they call their AI driving, their driverless, whatever their automatic driving is. Because when a Tesla runs into a truck and kills someone, there's like already a set of laws that make someone liable in that situation. And then the courts work out who it is. And then that person or that company is like, shit, we can't let this happen again. So we're going to put the brakes on. And I don't mean to say like somebody has to die in AI for that to happen. What I'm trying to say is that the laws build on each other like a ladder. And we basically like took the first rung out of this ladder, and we did it a long time ago. And we need to rebuild that thing and start actually making companies or entities liable for the damage they're doing. So, in terms of this particular Hugging Face thing in this hack, it's just an example of a possible future, but there was actually no harm in it.
Right.
It was a mistake. And then funny enough, the place that got hacked used AI to fix it. So it's actually like a story of how AI will help fix AI's problem.
Right.
If you want to really look at it like that. But in the middle of it, like if this actually was a problem and people lost money, the real issue would have been how do you recover the money? Or if somebody would have died, who's responsible, who's liable for that death, right? There's all kinds of stuff in between of what could possibly go wrong. But we have a whole system of laws that we can currently use to try to take care of those things.
Yeah. So I'm curious if we have questions on this beyond the what the fuck is Hugging Face again? But the there obviously with our tech issues and other stuff like that, I would I want to address kind of. We'll address the robots in a minute because we got to deal with my favorite conversation about this. But the key thing that I see, and this is where the rubber hits the road in this regulation part, is my big concern is not necessarily the big ones going rogue. And again, if there were 9 Skynets in Terminator, it'd be a whole different movie. My thing is the local models, and they are getting better, that you can download, and I think the future of AI is edge or local by and large. And I think, the deal that California made with Anthropic for their own kind of sort of California system eventually is much closer to where the business model of the bigger AIs is actually headed, because the rest of us will use the cast off ones and it will be plenty good. But the volume of AIs, models that are available currently on for download and stuff, and how good they are. I mean, they suck at times too, right? Obviously, but the what you can do with them is so extraordinary, and that's not going to slow down anytime soon. And these frontier models,
it's actually the decentralization side of it that is. Like, I would be more scared of the decentralized group of models than I would the two, foundational, or what are they? The two frontier models, or even the Chinese models. I'd be more scared of what in like a smaller model might do in the hands of a hacker who actually had bad intent.
Right. Yeah. There's Dr. Evil AI is, I think, more of a concern for me than even the sort of the mutual assured destruction aspect of, which is played out in a small way again with the OpenAI Hugging Face thing, is like what countries will be with. There will be an AI mad at some point between countries. Like, we can wreck your entire electric grid. Well, we can wreck yours, so don't try. And if you
and then also it's sort of a similar thing that we're happening now, like with Russia. Like, does your MAD actually work? Like, does your AI actually, are you full of shit, basically? And
there's
so
a bunch of that.
We're just in this weird place right now where, like we keep saying, we're led by fucking idiots who have no concept of any of this stuff. They can't even operate in the old way competently, much less this new way. And that's actually something that's come up now in my business, is I'm starting to realize that anybody I hire, I'm going to have to train. And this is a really interesting concept, because when we talk about the future of work, it's changing so fast that actually businesses, I think, are going to have to start thinking about how they're going to have to train anybody they hire, because there's my son's about to start college, and I'm moving so fast that in my own business, that I don't think that he's going to be prepared for what I'm going to be doing in 4 years.
No.
So it's literally if I'm hiring a new person out of college right now, I have to train them. So that's a new way of thinking, I think, in terms of how we move forward, because it's changing so fast that we don't have the training to accommodate it. Part of forward is both figuring out the new way and figuring out how to bring people along with it. Yeah.
And I think you're absolutely right. And I think stuff will become so specialized. There was a thing called that you're going to have to, bring people into how your system is built. You'll have so many tools to make it just the way you like to work around the shop. And you're basically where everybody becomes a little Da Vinci in that regard, that if you're going to work in his shop, you got to know what his system is. And so even if you knew engineering and that kind of stuff, when you come in there, you're going to have to adapt to whatever is there. And I think that it's an adaptive education that you're kind of talking about.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
You're going to need somebody knowledgeable in the field, but also it helps, again, in a way that it hasn't since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, to be a well-rounded person again, with
I think
more than a
generalists are the new specialists. Like,
yeah,
you have to be able to see a broader scope and connect dots, and effectively a person augmented with AI can be a generalist who can more broadly be a specialist, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, and adaptability has to do with breadth of knowledge. So people with a lot of different skills are much more crucial than somebody. It's so interesting because I've always balked at this do one thing horseshit that's been big, especially around post-industrial and then into the branding era, where they turned creative work into this kind of blanket, like, assembly line behavior point, which is, there's so many of these books, and this is why I like the software. That's why I like the stuff it gives me the ability to do, because I can play in these different sandboxes of my own and start building the stuff I want to build that incorporates my creativity into stuff in a way that I just didn't have access to unless you had a big studio budget, or you had a big record label behind you, or you had, a writing assistant, or, you're walking around the room like, Mel Brooks just talking to a secretary as she types out script pages. That's lovely, but most writers can't afford that even after their third film. So the idea that those kind of things, I think, are key and should be seized on. And the thing I read, and I don't know if you heard of it, that Jensen Huang was talking about, like, we know the potential for bad is there, as is true of any technology. And I made the point about fire, which I don't know if you heard or whatever, but, like, if you try to pitch fire brand new to the public right now, you'd sound like exactly like the AI guys. Like, obviously, there's a lot of flammable shit. Trees, by and large, your family, if you still go wildfires. But what we want to do is we want to take wildfire can also be great. You can heat food with it. We could put a little bit of fire in your kitchen. It would sound like insanity. But, go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, if you think about just your house, like, there's natural gas lines coming into your house that spew gas that can explode the entire fucking house. And there's a controlled little, like, flame inside of your stove on your cooktop or in your oven. And, like, you're like, well, if this was 150 years ago, you'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, right. Are you insane?
Gas into my house and control a flame? That's insane. But here we are with, like, heavy regulation that now makes it so that it's pretty rare that you see a house explode because of a gas leak, right? And so, this
but it still does happen. So you need regulations, and you need to see who's liable, and you need to make sure you're working on this stuff. But almost every great thing that we incorporate into our regular lives, I mean, the destructive power of a vehicle is, in and of itself, in the abstract, if all you looked at it for is like, whoa, somebody could just get in one of these 6,000-pound monstrosities and drive 85 miles through a fucking playground if they wanted to, it's like, yeah, they kind of could. I mean, the only thing stopping them is them. That's a terrifying notion. You'd start going, wait, we need the car kill switch act right away. And there is one. There's a for self-driving cars and the like, and for impairment, there was a thing about, like, could you remotely turn off somebody's car if it thought they were drunk? Right? That kind of thing.
There's a regulation. If you have a DUI, like, there's times when you have to do a breathalyzer before you can drive the car. That's effectively a kill switch for drinking.
That's right.
So these things, like you said, they exist. They're just put into categories that, where they're appropriate, I guess is the right way to say it.
Yeah.
Where they're needed.
So the key, I think, and as we kind of wind down into the tail end of the show and try to get practical about this. So because in our back and forth, we've had a few different broad topics here. This is the overall thing, and this is where you and I, by the way, when Rob and I talk about this stuff over a meal, this is the kind of stuff that comes up, and then we nerd out by and large about what we're doing with it and what it's capable of doing and what value it has. So let's talk about that in the last 20 minutes. So we've gotten through kind of like, you got to put a bit in this thing's mouth, or a stampeding horse through a playground is a bad idea. So maybe, figure out some way to keep these horses penned and make sure that they don't, shit everywhere and run people over, within limits if you're going to bring them into the city, that kind of thing. And that is a thing that exists, and we can do it. The question then is, how does this benefit everybody, and how do we get the people who are, I guess, unsure about it to not just hand it over to the Elon Musks of the world and not participate in its value, by showing them a little bit how, like, we work with things. And you have probably the most in-depth system I've ever seen. Even in, like, looking at YouTube videos where these, like, geeks are agenting out almost so that they can just outsource their whole, like, I don't have to do anything anymore. I'm like, that sounds fucking boring. And it's mostly FinSec crypto nonsense.
I really hate the whole agent concept because when we work with it internally, I actually think of it as like we're not just sort of sending something off and like waiting 2 days and have it come back with an answer. We're sort of incrementally moving forward with it, augmented with it. And to me, that's much more powerful than trying to like do a one and done. That's what I call it. Like a lot of stuff you see online is I made this ultimate prompt and then I hit go and then I got the perfect software. That doesn't happen. It never does.
No, it does not.
So what you really want to get into is more like, how do I incrementally, or how do I iterate this idea I have? And the process of iteration in almost all forms of art and creation is where the magic happens. So you try something, you look at it, you like it, you don't, you improve it, you change it, and you keep doing that over and over and over again. And then eventually you get to something you're like, this thing feels right to me now. That's how we use AI in general. And so what I try to do is like, think about it, like, how do I decrease the things stopping me from doing those things? How do I decrease the friction between me and getting my job done? And then we apply it to that. And then we apply it to the fun stuff in sort of the same way.
So that in my end of things, a lot of it is just having not come up through the university system and the like. If I need to format something for another industry, that's one of the best things about it, where I can help it. It will normalize it to what they're doing. And I've always argued that all technology is taking something that is, explosive and dangerous in its wild form and trying to shrink it down into a functional explosion. That's effectively what a light bulb is. It's you're capturing something that, were it open, would be an open flame in your house. But to avoid that, you make a light bulb out of it. The combustion engine is like millions of controlled explosions pulling your car forward. And we've got a couple of people who are we've got a couple of doomers in the chat specifically, which is good that we, I feel like Daniel says AI is not a tool, it's a weapon. Well, couple things. One is weapons are tools if your goal is to kill someone or not be killed, right? That's the thing about a weapon.
Take their stuff.
Or not have your stuff taken. Right.
Yeah.
That's the thing. A weapon is not necessarily, it is an amoral thing in and of itself as well. Right? I've always said, like, I hate guns, but the best day for a gun is the worst day of your life, because having to use it is this lead point that got you there, but its only function is in the worst of worst circumstances, right? The rest of the time, it's not a toy. They shouldn't, people shouldn't be playing with them. It's absurd. But when they do have value, it's because shit has gone horribly, right? The same thing is true of almost any, major technological leap, is that sometimes you have to, the work necessary to solve a problem. We use radiation to deal with cancer, and the damage that radiation does to the body while you're being treated for cancer. My girlfriend just went through this. Is a terrible notion. Like, think about the conversation in Oppenheimer and then go, one day we'll be able to point this at your nuts or your breasts or your liver and help you not die. That's
Right.
up to the people using it. That's the thing. And the people who, if it goes from being a tool to just a weapon, it's because of the abdication of its function as a tool by the very people who would use it as a tool. We got to.
I mean, effectively, SpaceX is sending satellites up to use Starlink on ballistic missiles that are also used to fire nuclear weapons. So they're the exact same payload or the delivery system.
Right. So the question for a lot of folks, and I'm curious about this, is that I think it ties into a lot of people's natural like paranoias and genuine concerns and worries. And it's interestingly enough, it's the same people I find that are like, and I know I'm going to get in trouble with the chat for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyways because you know what? It's a solid analogy. Is the people that talk about pot as medicine without being aware of any of the negative effects of it, or its commercialization, or the toxicity possible in its commercialization, or or if you take pot that once existed in nature and then you jack up the THC in it and make an entirely different thing out of it through genetically modifying it, which again, the anti-GMO people I seem to brush this aside when it comes to weed for some reason. But the point is that anything can have this kind of root function to it and could be weaponized by people who aren't using it, especially if the people who could use it for a good purpose abdicate it for that use.
And also everything has a different effect on each individual as well.
Yeah.
So like it could be fine for one person and not for another person because it has some specific allergy or effect, right? So like these things are not blanket binary statements like that. I think one of the issues we have right now is that like every comment is like a binary statement, and that's not the way the world works. You can be a commune of pot smokers on one side of town, and the other side of town is totally like not smoking, and they can both be fine. Like
right,
or if they switch sides, they could all be bad, right? Like
yeah, that's right. They could be a mess, right?
All these things are like just we have a shortage of balance right now in terms of like shortage of just like evenness inside of like working through some of these things, I guess.
And I think that's that's the thing I read from Jensen Huang, which I can't remember if you heard that part of it, but his whole thing was like we're talking in terms of science fiction and a lot of these things, and no wonder people are scared. And like I said, if you talked about any major technology that we're talking about, look at the response to vaccines. The vaccine technology, especially the leap forward into mRNA vaccines, like look at the panic that happened amongst a good portion of the populace about this, and it very well may be the thing that brings the end of at least the infectious disease we can pass through our respiratory tract. It could literally end that in the next decade. So that's just something we put in the past. That people dying of consumption and tuberculosis and shit like that we used to just write off in the 20s and then got better with antibiotics, and then antibiotic resistant strains of these things show up, or weaponized versions of them show up, and we have an inoculation that basically protects us against all those in the future. That goal will pass through a period where maybe it might not work very well for a while. But with those kind of things, different people have a reaction to the trade-off. That some people are like, forget it, never. Yeah.
I see mRNA as being just bad timing. So if we would have come out, if COVID never happened, because mRNAs became like upfront and it was kind of new to everybody. Nobody had like heard of it. And all of a sudden it was like the cure for the thing that was causing a global pandemic, right? But if it would have come up sort of top down, I guess, or bottom up, where it was like, we just eradicated polio with an mRNA, and that was like a sort of a unique case. And then we went from polio to, I don't know, like pick a thing, right? And then they sort of laddered it down into normal flu and cold. that's not really how mRNA came out. It was like they were trying to do that because it was being tested in a number of different ways. And it was 10 or 15 years old in terms of being tested with humans. So if we would have been like eased into it a little bit differently, then it wouldn't become a political football when COVID happened, which I think was just this like perfect storm of China and
politics and
politics and staying home, and Trump, who weaponizes everything and never, he never lets anything go by without weaponizing it. The similar thing is true of AI, but instead of this externality forcing mRNAs into this COVID problem, AI just did it to themselves. If they would have had any sort of wherewithal and smarts to them, they would have done more like what I talk about, which is like, we came up with this technology and it's going to change the world. And here's our product that both helps you change the way you work and teaches you how to work in the future with it. Instead, they said, we're getting rid of everybody because we're going to make a whole lot of money if we get rid of every company's job, right? Or, we're going to be this superhuman intelligence that takes over the world, right? They were trying to like sell it as something. All they had to do is just sell it differently, and it would have been fine. Yeah, and they could have eased it out as like a different technology, or like other technologies get eased out, and they would have been fine. But they didn't do that because, I don't know, greed or whatever the situation was. So one was external and the other was internal. They just chose a poor way of doing it.
Yes. And so I want to run you by a couple of things on our way out the door and see what people's response to it and what they think about it in particular. And we'll start top down with the big scary. All right. This is a Fox Business talking about autonomous weapons. The battlefield moves towards a brave new world.
Welcome back. It is AI Week here on Mornings with Maria, where we take a
which is a terrifying notion. Nowhere could it be discussed in a dumber way.
Deep dive into how artificial intelligence is impacting all facets of American life. One area that's crucial where America stays on top, the battlefield. Maria spoke with Endural
Obviously, this is Fox's main chest
founder and executive chairman, Trey Stevens, with more on the race to lead in AI and the future of autonomous warfare. Watch.
We built this company that's gathered and diagnosed the health of the most important critical structures and critical infrastructure in the world, whether it be energy, mining, manufacturing, defense assets. You see our robots climbing all over ships and subs. All that information is actually allowed for, in combination with artificial intelligence, to create and make us the best in the world at understanding material health. That's what we're focused on, is the surging of tech at the front lines of actually building things. And that's what we want to do is be the support layer for the folks on the ground who are actually building the things that we need to defend the country.
Welcome back. That was.
Sorry, I can't.
He didn't say anything.
No, he didn't. And they cut out showing what he was actually talking about
for a second. Better than Fox News can talk for themselves.
Yes.
So obviously, Hegseths and Trump are up there like, hey, we need $500 billion more money than you gave us. So they're trying to connect AI, which everybody's like, oh, it's so fucking expensive, to the only way we can be safe is if we add AI to our battlefield, and we need $500 billion. Well, here's the big problem they have, and that is that everywhere else in the world that's using the personification of AI in the battlefield is drones, and all of them are doing it on no budget. So they're so fucking stupid that they can't see that the thing they're arguing for won't get them the money they need. It actually is like, hey, why are we spending even $1 trillion? Why don't we spend $500 billion, switch everything over to drones, and then use the other $500 billion for healthcare, right?
Right.
So that's what I'm talking about. The people that are selling this stuff are they're just it's just so wrong. It's so off.
It's so stupid. And like the idea is like I make the point that the big AI companies are in the business of putting themselves out of business. That's that's where they're going, because it only works if it makes stuff super efficient and super cheap and super easy. And if that's true, I don't need you fuckers anymore. So that's what they're up against. And the same thing is true in a military sense. Like at a certain point, if we're using it to make our decisions, well then why the fuck are you there? When I want somebody with the wisdom about the why as opposed to the strategic stuff. If I can just have AI do the strategic stuff, then let's start talking about the morality of the people in charge becomes way more important over time. Not that it hasn't been for years, but super important in this instance. And it's so stupid. Okay, so this is the other side of it. And I think this is close to their, I don't know if it's the same, and I apologize if it is. Glucose monitoring AI ring makes historic debut. Now, I used to have one of the little, whatever, the AI tracker rings or whatever. I have an Apple Watch, and I use it mostly for that, for like workout tracking and that kind of stuff. It's fine. But, well, we'll see. I just want to see if it might be the same thing, or they might have just added a feature.
AI is revolutionizing our world in ways that we never thought were possible, and that includes the medical industry. This week, Fox and Friends is taking a look at how...
But first of all, that's just a stupid sentence for the record. Of course they thought it was possible. They've been working towards it to build AI specifically for cures to diseases. They're building that's what protein folding was, like the third thing that Alpha Brain, they started working on. They created AlphaFold.
Technology is changing the game for our family's care. And we are starting with one company aiming to enhance care for diabetes, as cases have nearly quadrupled since 2000. But over that time, the technology hasn't improved much until now. Acta is a health tech company that uses AI and smart wearables to track health metrics like your blood glucose. For more, let's bring in Dr. Mark Siegel, Fox News.
Should I eat this olive?
Senior medical analyst and the author of The Miracles Among Us, How God's Grace Plays a Role in Healing. Hey, Dr. Siegel.
So they're and a segment about AI changing the future of diabetes care. I want you to listen again to the description of the person they have discussing it.
Like your blood glucose. For more, let's bring in Dr. Mark Siegel, Fox News senior medical analyst and the author of The Miracles Among Us, How God's Grace Plays a Role in Healing. Hey, Dr. Siegel.
So either God is AI or AI is God or something. I don't know. That's just so, it just gets dumber all the time. Okay.
So that ring is like not AI as we think about AI right now. It's effectively just it's a sensor collecting data.
Any more than a red light camera is AI.
Yeah, and so then the data goes to some place, and then you use something to analyze the data. And at best you could call it machine learning, which I guess we call all things computer-related AI now. Like I'm on AI on my Windows laptop, right? But that ring, in this case, like it's no different than a Nest thermostat.
Agreed.
It's just reading a glucose level somehow through IR or something, and it's
and that's good. That's a computer, but that's not an advance. Exactly. It's not an advance in AI. That's an advance in the sensor that they're using. Can now do it without having to poke a hole in your goddamn skin. That's the big advance. Not what, because you could do that with those little tack-on glucose monitors that people put on, that are constantly taking a blood sample. It's the same thing. Right.
The same thing. And then the prevention of diabetes, the change. There has been a rise in diabetes in the last 3 years, I think. And I don't know, there's probably some like knock-on effects of possibly post-COVID or something having to do with price of food, or I don't know. Like there's probably a bunch of stuff. But right now, you can tackle it a number of different ways. GLP-1s are tackling it in a big way from one direction. It's literally just, people taking GLP-1s are literally eating less, and it controls, like you start to get sick if you eat too much sugar or certain things. So that's one way. The other way is food supply, like actually like modifying or making better your the foods coming in through your grocery store from wherever the supplies are coming from. And the last, I guess, would be like dealing with processed sugars, like like Coca-Cola. Like right now, the thing that's weird about diabetes going up is that the choices out there of the different, hydrogenated oils and stuff like that, like those are actually going down.
Yes.
And it's because GLP-1s are out there. And so it's weird that, so I'm not sure why diabetes is going up, but I bet you there's some sort of like, the crime rate related to lead in the gas.
Yeah, right.
Some sort of like ancillary something going on right now.
I've been saying for a while, the whole Ozempic thing to me reeks of the, because they always talk about how like pharmaceutical companies or big chemical companies actually own some of the food companies as well, and there's this big overlap in them. But the point I'm trying to make is that like food additives companies, who supply to the big food companies and also make this stuff might secretly be going, oh shit, we put asbestos in everything. We've got a new anti-asbestos pill in case you've been exposed to it. We have no idea how it got in your system. And so that Ozempic itself could be this just unraveling of a problem they know they started.
Yeah, I don't buy the connection, but they are opposing entities, like for sure. And like there's a ton of crazy knock-on effects to the economy from GLP-1s. And, I can go on for that for a while because my girl is a nurse in weight loss, and that's a big part of her job. So I know a lot about that stuff. Anyway, they're like major things and health, like, so GLP-1 is the reason I bring that up as an example, because that's similar to a lot of the other drug advances that are happening because of AI. That's just one of them. There's a lot of other age-related stuff that's coming out, and so Alzheimer's stuff. Like, there's all kinds of new stuff happening because of like our ability to see data in a different way right now.
And one of the biggest things in medicine is the drug combination options for treating certain diseases. That it would take 100 million, doctors and nurses and techs working 100 million years and for hours and hours to even come up with some of them. So the crisscross of these things is actually where it can just run a tech and go, hey, try this, and then they can start doing pilot studies based on those. Because those drugs exist, you go like, if you add these to this will lower this one lipid that will create an opportunity for curing this particular cancer. And a bunch of them have been launched recently and are showing a lot of effectiveness around diseases. You'll be seeing a lot of like "don't die yet" videos on YouTube. I guarantee it, which is all like they're getting close. We're getting very close to
get yourself another 5 years. Do it however you can.
So one of the big things we hear about, and this will end on this. The bio labs in Ukraine. We always hear that shit, is a big, ooh, spooky. Okay. Well, you need a bio lab to check and see if a wheat blight or a product, like some sort of parasite or pathogen is destroying food. And it changes all the time. They mutate just like our common cold mutates or the flu mutates. So they've got to always keep up with it. And any place that's got a big agricultural sector is going to have biolabs all over it. Right. They're going to need to have that. So this is Iowa News Now.
A new tool that uses AI to help farmers detect diseases on their crops early and how to best treat them is coming to Iowa next year. Benjamin Reinshi, a farmer here in Jessup, says this will help him as a grower and make the crops healthier for consumers.
This is like having an annual checkup at the doctor. Get ahead of the problem.
Well, I might recommend. Sorry.
That's how Reinshi described crop.
I would recommend that for both these young fellows.
Voice software created by Interplant, a biotech company from California. Randy Schultz, the company's chief product officer, said the technology is planted near crops, then uses color-coded signals to show farmers when their crops are under stress.
So whether that's nutrient stress or disease stress, that enables us to tell farmers, exactly what stress, exactly what to apply, when to apply, where to apply it.
Reinshi says getting that information early could help farmers save money, avoid using chemicals they don't need, and respond to crop diseases faster.
It's expensive to put out chemistry out in the field. And not only do I not want to put out extra active ingredients or insecticides we don't need or pesticides we don't need, but I need to keep my budget in line.
Farmers who sign up.
I think both of those work. But the point being is that if you more, that's why I believe, and this is why I'm all, up in the robot business partly, but also I think the future is hardware. And I think the AI aspect of it will level out at some point where you won't be able to tell the functionality of one model from another. They're going to tap out at the point in the Rob Glenn 99% rule has well been met in a couple of areas, and then it will be.
I think it's already there.
Yep.
I think it's been there for 6 months to 12 months.
Exactly. And I think it will be free within a year. That level of quality will be free, available on for people to just go, I got this app and you download it and it's a free model and it just sits on your computer. It doesn't actually go to the outside at all unless you ask it to. And it can run locally with like 4 billion parameters on a regular Mac and off you go. And that's going to be the norm for it. But the thing that will be necessary, and I keep going back to this Sherlock Holmes line where he goes, data, data, data. I cannot make bricks without clay. And that is going to be the future, that where the industries that people see that will be necessary and that will be growing is both engineering and data gathering. And I don't mean in a spooky like flock camera sense. I mean the fact that you can now have a ring-based water sensor in your basement. So if your basement floods while you're on vacation, you don't have to find out when you got home. You can call somebody while you're away and save yourself $10,000 worth of damage. Is that putting the guy with the mop out of business, or is it making sure that the damage is curtailed earlier so the folks that actually do this kind of work are doing it, when it's easier to do and not having to slosh around in mosquito water in your basement, after a month?
Yeah. In terms of like the actual business application of what the crop was talking about, I mean, they're essentially, they're right. Like if you need to see what's happening, quickly and accurately identify what the problem is, and then apply the exact fix that will fix that problem. And waste or extra cost comes from effectively getting it wrong. Like you misidentified what it was. You identified the right thing, but you put the wrong thing on it. And then you waited for time and then you lost your crop, or you waited some time and then you had to apply a second thing. So it's time, it's the amount of stuff you have to put on it. And in like our business is the same way. Like it's identifying. So what makes us more productive is actually not making us faster. It's making us more accurate. Like we get to the solution quicker because we aren't experimenting. Like literally, I can ask for like this unbelievably obscure fact, and I'll get an answer that's so damn close that it'll probably work on the first try. Like, and that's way more advanced than what Google was, 5 years ago or 3 years ago. If I would have done the same thing, it would have maybe taken me a month or two because I would have had to read through a whole bunch of stuff and then take a choice for what the solution was. So this guy's saying basically the same thing. If you can walk out to your crop and you see a brown spot on it and you take a picture of the damn thing and it goes to something and it's like, this is this exact wheat blight, or this is this exact bug, and this is the exact thing you put on it, boom.
And nothing else.
Then. Right. Yeah. And nothing else. Then it's cheap, it's fast, and you still have a crop. And so there's your productivity. And that's not necessarily magic. It's like, it's connecting the dots. It's like finding the solution inside this massive amount of data. And and I would say that like from the standpoint of anything that's needing to come back to the US, like manufacturing, the production of any particular thing that we've outsourced, the thing that we lost was institutional knowledge. Yeah. And it's really hard to hire someone who might know how to sew. Like I'll use my examples, how to sew, how to weld, how to cut a thing on a certain machine, like all the things that you wouldn't only learn if you had been doing it for 10 years, right? Well, now like we don't need the institutional knowledge. We can actually like learn it real fast and then hire someone and then train them to do that based on the knowledge that we learned, right? So we're like very quickly churning. And that's how this is all going to happen, I think. That's how we're going to start making things more locally, is by really efficiently targeting these things and then just executing them like really quickly, really cheaply. And frankly, that's how Ukraine is winning their war.
Yes.
Like that's how they're winning it, because they're agile and they're fast and they're creative, and they don't go back to like the old ways of doing things. Like that's how they're winning.
So I've talked about this for a while, but the fact that AI laser weeding will probably be the end of peptides. I love this stuff. Yeah. We talked about this like a year ago, because these machines are being implemented everywhere. You don't use pesticides at all. They literally just kill off the weeds, that are growing in amongst them, and you don't put any chemicals on anything. And they just walk around dick, 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 like that. It's amazing. So this has been going on for a while. The other thing I want to point to, and I swear we're going to go this time, is this is not just in the States. This is on WeOn News. Indian doctors turn to AI tools. This is a thing that is happening worldwide. And I think that's what I want people to take away today, is that there are two big areas that seem to be a black box for people's thinkings when they think of AI, because they only think of OpenAI and ChatGPT and Anthropic and Claude and shit like that. That local AI is a huge part of current modern life. That's what the Hugging Face thing was all about. At its root was that's where all the local AIs are big grown. Think of it as an AI farm where people share, not only, they crossbreed their plants, but they share recipes for cooking them. And then the other aspect, which is worldwide, every country in the world is racing at this as fast as we are. Europe is expecting to triple their electrical output for AI and data centers in the next 3 years. That's arguably faster than ours. Not to mention what China's doing. That becomes the big story over there. But Europe is training its own models as well. And you very well, at some point, we're going to hear somebody going, oh shit, the French have just put out a model that's amazing. That acts, with a level of like culture and sophistication and caring that we've just blown right past in our kind of wham bam thank you ma'am AI development in the United States. So, yeah, this is it is happening everywhere.
I'm seeing like people mention Roundup. Roundup is an example of what I'm talking about. The reason Roundup became what it is because it was like blanket solution. The idea was no matter what it is, it will kill it. And so they invented this thing that effectively allowed them to not have to identify the exact problem and deliver the exact solution right at that. It was a blanket solution. So what
napalm.
The future is the exact solution for the exact problem, and then you're not over pesticiding, if you will. If pesticide is even the answer, because what you're suggesting with the lasers is you don't even need the pesticide. Like just like shoot them with heat, right? Like, but it's got to be like literally like focused in a dot on a leaf or on the ground. And so how do you do that? Well, you got to have autonomous robots constantly like those lawnmower things that basically go out every night and just kind of do it while you're asleep, right? So that's what these new technologies are enabling, a different way to approach all these problems. And that's what the world's not going to stop. Like we have to continually look at these things. And I used to hate the war analogy, but I love using the Ukraine one because it's a great story of basically like a group of people who like everybody thought were dead. Like how could they ever do anything? And they're like, fuck that. We're gonna change how we do it, and we're gonna be creative, and we're gonna and we're gonna 3D print in our garage, and we'll just do it in 1,000 garages. And then now all of a sudden they're beating Russia, right?
That's right. And which again also puts fear. If you talk about mutual assured destruction based on nuclear warheads, there's also now a possibility like you may not even know the drone capabilities of a country. So why start that pick that fight with a smaller
it's
country.
Almost like the rights version of like you don't know when you're going to walk up to a house and someone's got a gun. Like we won't get invaded because we have so many guns around. I mean, half of that's true, right? Like
right.
It's you just like that's what a militia is, right? Like
that's what it was supposed to be.
The drones are the same thing, right? Like you know if you can stop a $5 million ballistic missile with a $500 drone, like of course you're going to do that. That's warfare. Like that's warfare for all time, right?
Right. And if you have those on site all the time, then it makes people think twice about invading your smaller country, and you can focus on other things instead of having to spend a quarter of your GDP on the military, like you were talking about with the $1 trillion budget. While they're trying to build, we need to add 50% more to our military budget when the entire system is moving towards a cheaper, more refined, and more specific version. It's like Pete Hegseth is getting in the Roundup business all of a sudden. Like
that's exactly right.
Right. We need to
pump more money into the old way and just keep lobbing it at the new way, and the new way is going to win. Like we've been proven. It's being proven right in front of our eyes.
And then after a while, if these tools are as functional as I believe they will be and stuff, then the impetus for war in the first place starts to diminish in a way that, like, beyond the Nobel Peace Prize idea that was based on dynamite is so dangerous nobody will want to pick a fight ever again, which is the irony of the Nobel Peace Prize, that people will look at this in terms of like, we got better shit to do. And now we can use these tools to make our own farmland more productive. We can use less water. We can use fewer chemicals. We can be more specific about the crops that we're growing. We can rotate crops and make sure the nutrients get back in. We can set up a system where the parts of the food we don't use get put back into the soil as its own genuine fertilizer, as opposed to having to worry about, petroleum-based products to do that for us, and, nitrogen from that kind of stuff. So, and that is where this stuff is headed, because that's where it's profitable. That is the area where it has value. That is the area where people and governments and companies will pay for this shit, not just answering your fucking, essay questions at college for you. It will, it's where they can go, this service that runs all the time, that's relatively autonomous, that somebody will update and check on and all that kind of stuff that needs to be done to make sure it works right, will slowly, take over this part of it, so I can focus more on the actual productivity and the stuff that I care about doing this. And again, most of the complaints that I have, that I hear about these kind of things is, well, the government won't, and the government won't, and the government won't. They do when the right people are in charge. Sorry, but did you hear of any ICE killings while Biden and Obama were running things? No, you did not. Why? Did they not exist during that time? It matters who runs shit.
Also, it's on us to start doing what, like when I talk, like I'm doing the things I'm talking about, because that's the only way they're going to get done. And if I start with 5 and I get to 10 and then I get to 50, like people, like then, we're showing people how it's done. And along the way we're teaching, and like, that's the way that, frankly, that's the way China kind of became who they were now, is they just figured it out. Like, I'll put a machine in my garage and I'll make a thing. And it was like, 100,000 people with machines in their garage. And then they became this like supply chain. And it was because they just got up and did it. Now they had a lot of subsidies and things like that. And we can talk about how we can do those same things, but unless we start doing the things, it won't happen. It's that simple. So like, if you have an idea, do it. Just get up and
iterate
and start showing how it can be done.
That's
and if it fails, then try something different. But
that's why
the only way out is to move forward and keep doing.
Agreed. And that's why, like, everybody knows, and we have our own little tech difficulties as they happen, but I've been building this race car as it's been on the track, doing the show for quite a while. And in the new space, I'm carving out a green screen corner where I can film my own performance and augment it with AI and make creative things that involve my actual performance in a way that I did not have as an option before. It was just impossible unless I could talk somebody into funding a $7 million movie. It just wouldn't happen. I couldn't even pilot it without $150,000, right? And if you have a child, that gets a little harder to justify, right?
Right.
You know,
I mean, you and I are basically doing the same thing. We're essentially vertically integrating. Like all the things that you had to wait for someone else to do or hire someone else to do, you figure out how to do them yourself. And then when you don't have enough time to do them yourself, you hire someone to do it for you, but they're inside your system.
right.
And effectively vertical integration. And and a lot of people will say, well, you can't do all the things. And the way that I go about it is I say, well, I'm just going to do what I can with what I can do. And
Right.
I'll make a thing that people will buy. And that's how you get there. That's how you bring US manufacturing forward,
Back,
or you
right.
bring like these individual studios like you're talking about. Whatever your limitations are, you make the video you can, you make the movie you can, and you prove that you can do it, and then you improve the next time. Or if
Right.
I can make a widget, I'll make the widget the way I can and try to sell something that I can sell. And I'll build a factory that can make that thing without having to rely on buying something from China. And I'll just that's the creativity. That's
Right.
the problem, right? So that's the thing we're solving.
That's right. And that's my goal with all of this stuff, and I'm going to keep at it. I'm going to let you go, and thank you for staying over, and I'm glad we remedied our whatever the tech weirdness was. The gremlins went away. Although
Yeah,
I'll
there's
just
something
assume
going
we're just being attacked by the Macedonians again. I'm just going to assume the Macedonian Russian hacker farms are going after us because because we're too we're too
I don't know what I did to the
happy clappy.
Macedonians, but
It's all me. They love you. They're worried about me. Anyways, you're awesome. I will talk to you later, brother. Thank you so much for dropping by. I'll let you go.
Love you, Hal.
All right.
Everybody
All right.
from the chat, have a great weekend.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Cheers. Thank you so much. There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. Rob Glenn. Finally getting a break from my technical difficulties. And I will see you guys, those of you that are Patreon members and those of you that are members, Patreons and then members on YouTube. I will be live streaming the stand-up show at Flappers tonight. And I got to go because I got to go get there. That's where I'm going. I'm bugging out. And I have to say, like, the folks that we occasionally see, and this is going to come up in the chat, I have no doubt, that are like, this is just a plan by the big so-and-sos that are trying, the Pentaverate is after us, and they're going to control us, and it's just another way to herd us like cattle. I got news for you. You might have been able to think that about the Industrial Revolution to some degree, because it's what sprung most of, was a neo-Luddite reaction to industrialization, was what Marx was, pushing back on that, and like sharecropping and shit like that, and forced sharecropping in Russia, which he experienced and saw or whatever. You could say that about that reaction because that's a material world aspect of things that you can't avoid. This is totally different. And the people that are creating it are in the process of eliminating their job in a way that no technology has ever come close, except for maybe computer techs that created computers that were in the programming world in the beginning of it, when the desktop came along. Right? The show is at 9:30 p.m. Pacific time. So yeah, I should probably do, like. So tonight, Flappers, for all our beloved Patreons and our members on YouTube. If you're a member, you get to watch the show. It's a little private viewing we get to have. It's the only thing I add that's sort of paywall-esque because that I can give to people, because I don't want to put anything we talk about here or on the other show behind a paywall. So yeah, no afternoon show today just because of travel and stuff. I'll be landing too late to do that. I'm flying in because I have to fly back because family's in town and family first. So that's just the reality. Also, I got to kind of limit my use of my voice on days like this. So anyways, this show, October 24th. If you haven't got tickets, I think it might even be sold out already, but it's the graphic that I have up. And of course, you need to subscribe, I think is the key. If that's not too much to ask, to just try, because we thank you very much. Could you just subscribe? That would be really helpful. We're doing pretty good. And I know there are a lot of people. Thanks, Daniel. I just don't want you to be so afraid. There's so many people, because I think fear is a trap. I think fear is the bigger trap. I think making people afraid of this stuff and afraid to use it and afraid to incorporate it into their lives and afraid to travel once they have, like, if I'm in this system, they're going to have all my stuff there. What if I want to move to another system or whatever? That's how Facebook trapped a lot of people. Fuck that. Fear is the biggest corral there is. So, and if you're hearing a lot of scary stuff, that can't be an accident either. So this is incredibly important. So anyways, he goes, we've never had such a great concentration of wealth and power and government being controlled, had such fast as did simultaneously. Itself, AI might not be as scary, but it is becoming, no. Okay, so a perfect storm? No. A perfect storm would be if these people actually knew how to use it and were, intellectually capable of processing it, which they are not. Which lucky us, I guess. The other thing is no. Perhaps in our democracy, this is the most ridiculous time we've ever found ourselves in with the Trumps and the like. But again, most of the people he's pilfering are his own supporters with his stupid crypto shit. So, and all monarchies are a higher concentration of wealth and control. And that's what we had before. And we will repair this and move on. And the damage will be limited in a way that it was never like when we had monarchies fighting monarchies and forcing their own people to go to war. I'm just saying. And optimism works. It absolutely does. It is also your primary operating mechanism, because you wouldn't have eaten breakfast this morning if you didn't think you were going to live long enough to shit it out later. That you are an optimism machine, even if you think you're a pessimist. Sorry. That's just the reality. Anyway, I know it's the Midwestern goodbye. Candy, I hear you, okay? I get it. Just saying. And David, thank you so much for the super sticker. Bless you. So I will see you guys this afternoon. I gotta go. I got shit to do. But we have bigger fish to fry, and we can handle all of this stuff if smart people are in charge, which is why I'm going to be running for president. Now, if people think that's ridiculous, it's because it is. But aren't all big dreams slightly ridiculous? But at the very least, if I can have a say in part of the conversation, I think that has value, and people can decide for themselves whether or not they think that, I'm adding value or taking away. And even that conversation about whether I'm adding value or taking it away is valuable to the discussion. Is it not? You're welcome, America. That's what I'm saying. I think that's going to be my slogan. Hal Sparks for president. You're welcome, America. I think that'll work. I like it. All right. Anyways. You got all the way home, Katie? Oh, I'm glad. All right. Well, then you're safe at home, and I feel like I can leave now. I've walked you safely to the door. All right. So I'll talk to you guys later. I got to go catch a plane. This is ridiculous.
Touch is a problem.